Assessing the impact of a covert nuclear program is complex. So you'd want all the different sources of intelligence that the intelligence community generates: imagery, signals intelligence, human intelligence, even the specialized unit in the Department of Energy that assesses nuclear programs around the world. Some of that collection takes time, and I would suspect that some of it, particularly from Fordow, may not be available at this moment, given it's unlikely there's power there. It's probably difficult to get data out. So that will take some time to pull together. And frankly, really, what we'd ideally want is inspectors on the ground to see it. But you'd want as many of those sources of intelligence and what they call a national intelligence assessment, something that brings that all together. I think the second thing I would say, we say in the intelligence community, be clear on what we know, what we don't know, and what we think. And in this case, there's probably as much we don't know yet. And I would hope that even in a report like this, it would clearly detail what data it's based on, what data is missing that's needed for a comprehensive assessment. And then finally, what occurred here is deeply troubling for intelligence officers who really believe in the professionalism of the community and the culture of nonpartisanship. At the end of the day, intelligence is intended to operate in the shadows. And what occurred here, which is potentially the leak of a partial report, perhaps for political purposes, just can really shake Americans' confidence in the intelligence community and in its unique role. And I think the thousands of professional intelligence officers deserve our trust. So the larger piece here of we should be building up these institutions, not tearing them down, but things like this are deeply troubling because they run counter to the very culture and the nature of what intelligence should do.
Well, and to your point about it needing to be clear what is not known yet, how frequently are preliminary reports like this drastically different in terms of outcome than the full complete report where all questions have been answered to the extent of our capabilities?
In this case, because the program was covert, it's underground, so many of the sources that it's a hard assessment to do in the first case. It's particularly hard as well because some intelligence sources I would expect, some of the technical sources have probably even been destroyed in the strikes. So as a result, there needs to be a good assessment to say, what do we know today? And how do we rebuild potentially some collection that may be needed to make a real assessment as well? This one is probably, I would say, one of the hardest of assessments to do, both because it was intentionally covert, built into a mountain. So it's hard to get some of the sources we would rely on, like imagery, like signals intelligence. Potentially some of the individuals involved in the program may no longer be alive. So some of what might be signals intelligence may no longer be available. That makes it harder.
Well, you lead us to our very next question. And is there not a good chance, since this was in fact under a mountain, that we'll never know? And maybe we'll never know where that highly enriched uranium went.
I think we will certainly know that it had an impact, right? It disrupted the state of a program that was at a concerning point. The full details of what it would take to reconstitute, how difficult it is, it could well be that may take time, or we may never have a fully confident assessment for all the reasons we just discussed. But I think this is an important enough topic for the world, for global security, that I have confidence that the best intelligence officers in the US across multiple agencies and frankly in partner services around the world are racing to try to pull together as good a picture as they can in order to give that answer.
Well, Anne, as you mentioned, global security, obviously there are many layers to that. And in part, when we're dealing with the questions around Iran specifically and its cyber capabilities, cybersecurity is something we really want to speak with you about, knowing that it does seem any military engagement or conflict between the U.S. and Iran and Israel and Iran has quieted down for now. How high would you say the risk remains, though, of something happening in the cyberspace, of Iran acting out in that particular way?
I think it's always wise to be prepared, but the risk is likely lower since Iran has responded. As you said, whenever we're looking at Iran and geopolitics, it's good to look at cyber because they like to conduct attacks in cyberspace for three reasons. They have plausible deniability. It gives them global reach, and because they often do targets of opportunity. Iran will take capability off the shelf, available on the dark web, and attack targets that are vulnerable. And there's always targets that are vulnerable: small and medium-sized critical infrastructure, small and medium-sized banks, hack and leaks of individuals who are of interest to them. But for right now, I would say the threat has certainly come down, but it's wise to be prepared given Iran has conducted cyber attacks in crises and geopolitical conditions like this in the past, against Israel, against the US, and against individuals who they view as being, counter to Iran's interests.
There have been reports of Iran continuing cyber attacks against any number of nations now, and have a history of attacking the United States in this role. What are we capable of doing back to them, Anne? I remember asking you a question about our capabilities that you were not able to answer in your time at the White House. Do we have, and do the Israelis by extension have the ability to go after Iran in a covert way, a Stuxnet 2, an opportunity to knock the lights out if in fact centrifuges are spinning again?
So first, one thing we will often do is remove Iran's plausible deniability. And when an attack happens, we'll make clear it's the Iranian government. And that's one way of deterring them from acting. So we did that, for example, after Iran conducted attacks against water, food, and energy systems just about 2 years ago, after October 7th. And they did it under a hacktivist group, Cyber Avengers. And we both publicly attributed it to the Iranian government and named some of the individuals to show our level of visibility into their program, and then privately conveyed to them, knock it off. So that's one way we deter. And then we, of course, maintain the capabilities you would expect to respond as needed, if required.
Well, and deterrence is one thing, but to your point about responding as needed, offense would be another, would it not? It's one thing to make sure our own cyber defense is secure, that we're acting in that defensive way, that we're deterring Iran where we can. It's another for the U.S. to decide to go on offense in the cyberspace against Iran. What do you anticipate that is something that still might happen if diplomacy ultimately fails?
The U.S. maintains the capabilities to respond. Those are often subjected to a larger, what are we trying to accomplish in a given case? I think for now, it would appear that the U.S. has conducted the strikes, Iran has responded, and now we're looking to see the next steps in achieving a long-term, debilitating impact on Iran's program. But the U.S., as you would expect, maintains the capability at this moment in time. I think that would be part of a larger conversation around what are our overall goals and where does cyber fit into those goals.